so much for joining us on your lunch hour. Well, it's a lunch hour here in Santa Clara. It's actually great to see some familiar faces on here. But those who have not, met me in my parent like webinar or orientation before, I'm Denise Home, the Assistant Dean of the Student Engagement Team here in the College of Arts and Sciences. So our office does a lot of different things. Advising is one of them, and then we do help with professional development and career planning we have the real internship program where we help supplement pay during the summer. We help students find internships. We help with the before process of what they should be passionate about and majoring and everything in between. Today on the chat, we have Calvin Miller, who's our advisor and engagement specialist. So he oversees a lot of the advising and meeting with students last week, this week, and next week. He also is in charge of our peer advising program, which I'll go into in a bit. So it's really great. Thank you so much for being here. And let's get started. So I want to be very clear that the goal of this is to help parents or guardians guide and support and empower their student during this advising and registration period. So we're all about coaching and supporting your student and not doing the work for them. They have been college students for 7 weeks now, if you can believe it, for those first year students. And I'm going to make the assumption that most of you all have first year students, or maybe if you have juniors, seniors, that's great. They should be able to know the system, upperclassmen, but for first years, we're really trying to teach them some life skills through this process. So I just want to make sure that you're guiding and referring versus wanting to come in and do it for them, which can be a huge switch for parents. I have two kids, and one of them is really learning how to kind of forge on his own in academics. And it's a huge shift for me as a parent to make sure that he has and trust and guide that. So I get it is tough to do. And the goal of parenting is to help children become capable of managing their own lives. I love this quote from Brene Brown. And so I just wanted to share that as something that if you're in that moment with your student and they're texting you for some reason that then you need to send them something or whatnot, that this is what our goal is for our children. So here's just I'm a visual learner, so these are for my visual learners. Here's kind of the steps that your students should be doing. One is academic advising, started last week, but don't worry, they can get advice this week and next week. They should be going into Workday and really reviewing our course offerings. Do they have a hold on their account? Saving a schedule that they tentatively would like. And then making sure they're looking at when their registration appointment is. So a registration appointment is when the students can start registering for classes. Registration will happen. And then after that is the post-registration support. I think we always talk about academic advising, preparing for registration, but in our office, we really talk about registration strategies and what support looks like after for them. And on the bottom of this icon is casadvising@su.edu. We really direct students to this email. And the reason why is they're like, well, I want to directly email Calvin. Well, we have multiple people. Calvin and I will check this inbox just in case if Calvin's out or he's in meetings, then I will check it and vice versa. So we always want to have somebody that's there to kind of do the triage and intake for students. So I just want to start off with talking about the academic advising team that your student has. Each student is assigned a faculty advisor. It's listed in Workday. We've shared with your student how to find them and their support network in Workday. And our faculty advisors are here to help them do course selections, professional interests, and academic concerns. So if they're not doing well in a class and they're not sure what to do or the resources for them, a faculty advisor is a really great person for that. We also have the CAS student engagement team. That's me and Calvin. Oh my gosh. If you have a question, drop it in the chat, please. Calvin and Stephen are on standby for this if you need it. And so we also have our team we have peer advisors. So there's a photo of just a snapshot of them on this screen, and they are trained by us and they can meet with any of these students, even if it's not something that, is aligned with their major. They can just help them get started on workday, getting comfortable with that, registration strategies, class selection, directed them to different resources. They also can meet with Calvin Miller and make an appointment there. We also have Dr. Sarah Hayes, which is our director of internship. So we have students who are just unsure about what to major in. They can also meet with Sarah and she can really help them. And there's also myself. I find students find it a little intimidating to meet with me and everything, but I'm also here overseeing the advising services, but I also meet with a couple of students too on more like complex academic concerns. So I'm just here as another resource for students. Next, we have our academic department. So if they're in a declared major, their major already has been sending out information. They announce information in their classes, emails, student group meetings about different offerings that they are doing. And then there's the Drama Center, which is kind of a central hub for all of Santa Clara. So they see School of Engineering, they see business students, they see College of Arts and Science students. And so they're kind of general advising. And so they have a team of faculty and staff advisors. And they just rolled out a new peer mentor program for first year students. And so they're also another resource that they can go to. We also have faculty and residents that are hosting office hours in the residence halls. So they don't even need to leave their residence hall and go in pajamas, although I do not recommend they do that, but they could do that if they wanted to as another resource. And so they have a huge advising team here at Santa Clara. They've received multiple outreach to it, which I'll talk about later. And I get the question of, well, Denise, like this is overwhelming. Who should I send them to? And I'm just like, they can choose one. But if they really are overwhelmed, come to our office, the student engagement team. We can do the intake for them. The difference between us and Draman is we just work with College of Arts and Science students. So make an appointment with a peer advisor, make an appointment with Calvin, drop by our office. We are here to help them with that if they're feeling really overwhelmed by who they need to meet with. Or maybe they met with their faculty advisor and it didn't go as well as they wanted, so they can come meet with us too. We just want to make sure they go somewhere for help. But I don't want to do all the talking. So I would love to hear from you. If you could take a moment and scan this QR code, or you can join in at slido.com and enter this number here on the left-hand side on my screen. What is the most important to you as your student navigates advising and registration? This will really help me and my team kind of figure out what are the needs from the parents concerned and making sure that we can help address that. So go ahead and scan that. And then I will click over here. Whoop. And then see what your responses are. So go ahead. Calvin, I don't know if you want to drop the link in the chat so people can just click it. Ooh, yes, 4 people are typing. Yes, share with me. Tell me. I want to know. This is for you. So I want to know what we're meeting with an advisor and getting started. Okay. Resource. Okay. Yeah, this is good. Experienced advisors, some are not. That is a very honest assessment. So I love it. This is really great. Ooh, wow. That was just like a huge pop-up here. Seems like getting started, meeting with advisor, resources, internships, being prepared. Getting the classes they need. I'll wait for another, these last 2 people are typing and then we'll move on from that. Planning for summer internships. Okay. Oh, I have more people typing in. Okay, we'll close it in like 10 seconds. Deciding on a minor and timeline. That's an important one too. Teacher preference, the right classes, advising for a minor, all these things. Yes, yes, yes. Concern about terrible resource. Okay, all right. I love it. Thank you. I love how active this group is. I'm going to actually save that slide and then we'll go back and really look at those resources. And if we don't get to your question today, Steve and I are working on a follow-up email to answer those questions. Okay. I really appreciate that. And it gives me a good kind of perspective of what where the parents at, because I'm sure you also know where your student might be at. So here are some of the common student challenges that Calvin and I have been seeing. So uncertainty about requirements, like what courses fit in their plan, anxiety about making a mistake or missing out on classes, time management struggles of finding a balanced schedule. This one is where I really see when registration happens is like advocating for themselves or asking for help. Those are the top four things that I think also came up with in the last slide. So I just wrote, the theme is like feeling overwhelmed, worried about making the wrong choice, and not getting what they want versus getting what they need. I tell students registration is like when you're waiting to get like tickets to a really big star like Taylor Swift or something, or whatever cool music festival students are going to. And it's just like you have all this concern, and it comes during a time of the quarter when, they're wrapping up midterms, they were missing home and can't wait to go to Thanksgiving. Maybe roommate concerns are coming up. So it's a really hard time right now. And, we're very aware of that. And so Calvin and I really think a lot about how do we make our students de-stress and have this information. And one of the common things is that we find that students talk to their parents. And that's why we're doing this webinar, because we really want to be partners with you in helping support your student. So my big thing for parents is to coach, don't direct. So I have a master's degree in counseling. So I love studying the brain and how things react to stress. And so my thing is that when stress hits in your student or even yourself, your brain's alarm system takes over. It's that prefrontal cortex of the logic and decision making. It just goes offline because it's in a panic. Students, they hear about flight or fight response. They freeze, they overthink or shut down, and it makes it really hard to prioritize. And so my key message for you is when your students are feeling overwhelmed, or maybe it's just like, they're not talking or anything like that. They can't think clearly. So it's really about how to calm them down. First is take a breath, because sometimes when this comes out, like you need to make sure that you are in a space too to be able to not just like jump in. I'm the type of parent that like really wants to be like, okay, so how do we solve this? Versus really me taking back and be like, do you just want me to listen? Do you want me to give you advice? Do you just need a hug? Like, those are three questions that I ask my kids to make sure that I'm aware, and they may not even know wherever they are in the process. So, here are some questions that I want to make sure that you had in your back pocket is what's one small, you can ask me, like, what's one small step you can take right now if you're unsure? Or what do you think you can do right now to help to help them refocus the control that they have? Because that's what stress is the feeling of a threat of not being in control. So, and remind them that stress is learning, and everybody's stressed out during registration, because sometimes it can feel really isolating for students to feel that. And some questions is like, who on campus can help you figure this out? Have you reached out to the student engagement team? You can email them at cassadvising@SU. That last question sounds very chat body, I know, but really we're here for them. That's where we want you to refer students to. We want to know what is going on with their students. And I've been doing this for almost 10 years. So I've interacted with many students, and this is like my 25th registration going through this. And so I really want to make sure that no matter what the student is and they need like a to grasp on something, it's just a simple email to CAS advising at SCU is a great way for us to connect with them. And Calvin and I know that this is a stressful time, so we really are quick to respond. Probably within 24 hours, Calvin, maybe even shorter than that, because we know it's a really hard time and they want answers. And so I want to make sure you're like, Denise, these are all really great resources. Reach out, reach out, reach out. But what does the outreach look like that you've already done? So first year students, we've already emailed them about resources and how to prepare for academic advising. It was fantastic. We had like a 90% open rate with them. And they were clicking links. We have workshop drop-in advising and registration information that was sent to them. I will be sending out another reminder to first years right before they register so they know when they register who to go to if they're starting to feel the panic that they didn't get the classes they wanted or even the classes they need. To me, that's really important for me to know so we can talk to the department chairs, see what is this a systematic thing? How do we get the student to make sure they have a full load of classes for winter? Sophomores and seniors are a little bit different since they have been through registration a couple of times. They got an email from me also geared specifically to their class year and talking to their faculty advisors, peer advisors. Obviously, they can go to the Drama Advising Center or SET. One thing that we're offering for our graduating seniors is Calvin is doing drop-in hours on Tuesday, November 12th. And basically, these are for our graduating seniors to be like, hey, can you come check my course plan to make sure that I'm not missing any requirements, or I am in my last quarter or 2 quarters. So that's something that we really want to make sure graduating seniors are ready to go. So we're offering that for them. And then our students, any students can drop by our advising hours in Daily Science 316. That's where our office is located. Just come on by. We're here to help. And we will have hours before registration. And then we also have hours right after registration, particularly with our first year students. So that if they're feeling out of control, I'll be like, you should go to the drop-in advising hours that the SET team has in Daily Science 316. We will send this presentation to you too. I just don't, it's a lot of information and dump that I have here for you all. For our undeclared students, this came up as a question. They got an email from Calvin. Calvin does a lot of intake with our undeclared students to just see how they're feeling and doing, and really start asking them the questions of what classes did you take? What are your interests? And they can sign up for one-on-one appointments because with our undeclared students, like having a drop-in advising appointment is great, but sometimes they just need to really have someone to chat about. Calvin, do you want to talk about your workshop that's coming up for undeclared students really quickly?
Sure. And I'm trying to get to all the questions in the chat. There's a lot of them right now. Yeah, so Sarah and I are going to be hosting a workshop for undeclared students. So some things like a lot of undeclared students think about is, like not only what do I want to study, but, what do I want to do after college? And where do I want to land? And so um, Sarah's going to be running point on this, and she's really great at asking these probing questions and finding areas of interest. And then I'm going to be kind of coming over the top and just providing some academic advising and thinking about how can we make this possible in terms of taking classes. Does that help?
Yeah, that's perfect, Calvin. So we just want to make sure, like, yes, maybe they took some core classes their first quarter, but now we're starting to work with them intentionally on thinking of what major introductory courses that they're interested in taking so they can get a full grasp. So hopefully by spring quarter, they're on their way to either major or minoring and everything like that. There was a question about minor timeline. Usually minors can be declared at any time, just depending on where you're scheduled. But most students do it, their sophomore year, junior year, after they kind of taken a couple of major classes or they took like an intro minor class. So really, I had a senior who declared her minor like during the summer, and she was able to do it So if your student ever wants to do a minor, they can always come by and chat with us to do that course plan. If you have a transfer student, something that's new this fall is that we created 2-year course plans for them. So they have a draft of what they need to do to graduate. But we also have drop-in advising hours with students, and also the Drama Center is probably one of the best places to go for transfer student advising. So I just want to say that if there's any parent on here that has a transfer student. We do want to make sure that they also have it because this is like their first registration, just like first year students, that they are able to navigate and connect with their department. And so here's kind of a timeline that I talked about earlier. Academic advising period is from October 27th to November 12th. November 12th, the registration appointments begin. So that's when students can start registering if they have an appointment during that time. Most first years won't register that beginning of the week. They'll probably do it the second week. And so we always recommend students enroll in 16 units, but this time for this quarter, they can enroll in 19, which is a lot of units, but some first years can do it, some maybe not. Please know if they do register for 19 and it's like, well, that's a lot, they can drop it. So just for them to know that. Classes do start in January, so make sure your student is back for the first week of class. A lot of people like, well, what if my student didn't get into the course they wanted to, or they're worried that they're falling behind? Please have them make an appointment in the Drama Center or the student engagement team. We are here and we'll work with them and look at their plan and make sure to walk them through different options that they have. So I don't want students to think that they're just out there floating around. We're here to help them and we're ready to help support them. So please, please, if they didn't get into something, have them make an appointment, drama in, or come see us. We're happy to help kind of navigate that. All right, but another pop quiz. You learned all this information. Now let's put it into play here. A little case study. Your student texts you, because I don't think students call anymore, and says, I don't even know where to start. I'm so stressed for registration. What do you say? Calvin, do you want to drop the um, website and the link? Thank you. I love this. This is so awesome.
It's just slido.com, right? Or
Yeah, yeah,
Stephen put it.
yeah. What? Why is it being all wonky? Here we go. So what do you do? What did you learn? This is like a mini quiz. Take a deep breath. Yes. Both you and your student. Breathe. Yes. Contact us. They can't do anything to help. Yes, look at your email. And if they don't know who their advisor is, we'll happily help them find their faculty advisor also and connect them. Sometimes we're happy to do that. Be like, oh, have you met blah, 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 and do an introduction. We're happy to network that for them. Calvin, there's a question on how to sign up for the workshop on here. Breathe, contact CAS advising. If the advisor says that they can't help, you can tell them to, yep, message CAS advising. If they're not connecting with their advisor or their advisor saying they can't help them, then that's when they should come to us. We want to know why. We will do a full investigation. We will look into it. We're happy to do it. That's our jobs. Yes, what is one step you can take? That's great. Oh, wait, have you signed for? I love this. This is really great. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna close it here because we're at the halfway mark here. And I think it's just really, I was going to drop in the chat, but there's probably too many questions. So just really step back after this and think of one thing that you can step back and let your student lead. Like, how are you going to have them advocate, help them craft an email? And sometimes I will say this, it could be that your student is just not ready in that space to advocate or whatever. That's okay if you reach out to. But I would say don't reach out to their advisor, reach out to CAS advising at su.edu. And sometimes it's just like, okay, I will go ahead and make contact with that student if you're really worried. I always want to tell parents, like, you know your student best. And if you're like, wow, they're really just lost and you've already tried to talk them through, like just email. I work with parents all the time and helping them and reaching out to students because I don't want us to lose any students through this process. So please, that's an opening for parents to be like, Denise, this is happening. We're happy to reach out to the student individually. So I just want to say here's the timeline, steps 1, 2, 3, and 4 of how we view registration. I always say, we got you. We got your student. Encourage them to reach out. We love hearing from them. That's what we get paid to do. So please, we like it because it tells us what's happening during registration too. So if there's something on my end as assistant dean that needs to be brought to attention, it's always nice to have that. And then really the walk takeaway is take a breath and say, have you go meet Calvin and Denise in the student engagement team, or they can go to Drummond, but really we're here as the hub. So we want to meet those students. And I am like a golden retriever, so I'm just waiting for students to walk in our office and do that. So I'm going to end this presentation, and I think we have some time to open up for Q&A, and Calvin and I and Stephen will do our best to answer those things. I do want to address, so a lot of people were talking about internships. We will have another parent webinar in February with Dr. Sarah Hayes and Katie, the week of Family Weekend. Um, and we're going to talk about internship resources and so forth. So for all those internship stuffs, we'll wait till February. That's right when most students should start to begin to think about that. So see, and Julia was next.
Oh, great. Thank you. I was wondering, because I think my son has been unclear about things, probably just a little overwhelmed. Now, is the faculty advisor supposed to be kind of like the first point of contact, possibly somebody you have a long-standing relationship with that you can, suss out ideas about things and balance, and it's like your point person? Is that the one and I don't know how that's assigned, or?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And my son, he of course was unaware of this because, or at least he seemed to be. But I'm just going to say, go to work day and let's find out who your advisor is and let's start developing a relationship and being specific, trying to be specific about your goals and where things are at.
Mhm,
I mean, that person. It's not, again, it's the college and they're independent, but so I think my son thought he was doing okay or pretty well, but then like once the midterm tests were not what he had hoped for, and so that's a kind of a huge impact because then it's like a non-recoverable situation, and you've
mhm,
paid for the classes and stuff, so he's going to have to really either meet with the teachers like at the front end of things to see like I guess I don't know what the grades are prior to doing midterms, but once you hit midterms then I think there's no drop. The drop period after is like a withdrawal or something, or W.
mhm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's
And
going to
we
have to manage that better. He's thinking he was doing fine, and but hope maybe I don't know if he could meet with a faculty advisor or I don't know how he just needs to figure it out better.
Yeah, I would say if the class that he didn't do well, I always ask students what that definition of didn't do well.
Yeah,
Was it that they failed? Is it that they got a B? Because some students
yeah.
like
It was fail.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for me is that they need to start with the faculty member and being like, what happened? Like there was a disconnect from teaching to that and going to office hours. And then
Yeah.
the drop deadline for the W is, I think on this,
The
it's
10th.
10.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
yes.
he's done that
So
before, but yeah.
between now and then, if he wants to come chat with us or meet with his faculty advisor to talk about if that's an option that he should drop the class. If
Yeah.
he's just not going to do well, I would rather him drop the class with a W than end up with a bad grade.
Yeah.
So and they can also email us and we can walk your student through that process too, um, to make sure that, there's just a lot of other things like financial aid. Are they an athlete? Are they honors? So I just want to make sure there's just a lot of things that we need to ask to see what this process would be. So faculty advisor or tell us, we deal with that all the time. It's actually in our season right now is we're reaching week 7. So if there's just no way in the next 3 weeks and finals, then
Yeah.
it's just a different conversation. And that
Okay.
can be really hitting in students' confidence. So I just want
Yeah.
to make sure that when I talk to them or Calvin talks to them, we can really walk through that
Okay.
process.
That's great. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right, I'm gonna jump in here real quick. I know Calvin has addressed all of the Q&A that's been in the box, so thank you for doing that. I work in partnership with a lot of our colleagues to get you all information regarding, all of our resources and services. So just make sure you're keeping an eye on the Bronco Family Network, which is how you all signed up for this webinar. If there's anything that I've missed that you think would be helpful, please feel free to email me and I can make sure to get to that. I also make sure that all of the deadlines, those withdrawal deadlines, course registration period, all that information is in the portal as well so that you have access to that so that when your student needs that extra nudge, you're there to assist them. And so, all that to say is, I talk a lot with you, put out information, and there seems to be a consensus of, students not reading email, which we're pretty accustomed to at the university. So, with that, Denise or Calvin, can you speak to what type of outreaches you do to students, whether that be like a regular newsletter, an email around the registration period, anything like that?
I can talk about it. So we have our biweekly dash of cast, which is just our dean's email about what's going on. So we write our registration information there. We send out personalized emails based on their class year. And so we make sure they get that. And so we'll send out another email notification. The other thing is that other offices are also advertising their flyers up right now about what different departments are doing. And, they're saying it in their classes for faculty. And then also faculty advisors do reach outreach to their students. So, and I also say like it's on everybody's mind. So their friends are talking about it and everything like that. So it's very, very much word of mouth. I mean, we have like a A-frame outside that says, we are part of advising, so come check us out, as different ways to do that. So it's just really overwhelming though for students right now. So that's why I was like, as parents, if you can help us get those students through the door so if they're feeling overwhelmed or lost, that this is a place for them to kind of land and we'll do it. Even if it's not related to academic advising, we're also here to help them too, and refer them out and make sure that they get to the right place. So
Awesome. And I know that the registration period starts in a week or so, and first year students are going to enroll in courses towards the end of that registration period. Do you have any advice on what students should do if a required class is full? So again, I know you talked about it could be challenging to get a class that they want, but they'll be able to get classes they need. So what advice do you have?
yeah. I think that's a really great question, Stephen. And one, I do want to say that, during orientation, they were registering around their peers or they were online and they had an advisor with them. They are doing this on their own. So I would recommend if they have friends who have the same registration time to like be together and doing that, or maybe that's too stressful and they need to do it on their own. I think if a required class is full, what they need to do is we tell students to contact the academic department. So if all the math classes are full, please contact the math department. They can also contact the professor, but we find that it's better to contact the department so they can see how many requests they're getting for these major classes. Two, I think you can go to Drama Center or us, the set team, and we'll take a look if it's really a needed class, um, or they'll be offering it next quarter. So I think, and looking at different options, because sometimes I think students are like, oh, I really need to take, some kind of class, but like, what are your interests? You can take his next quarter. Have you thought about doing a minor? So I think we can definitely navigate that. Calvin meets with a lot more students than I do. So I don't know, Calvin, if you have any more addition to that, but we really want to make sure if we're getting impacted on certain majors and everything, usually I would like to know that. So please reach out to us.
Yeah, could you repeat the question? Sorry, I was just answering one in the chat right now.
Yeah, so what should students do if a required class is full? And the word required is interesting, right? Because we have
Yeah.
required university core, we have required College of Arts and Sciences core, required majors core, things like that. So there's so many different classes that students can choose from, but a
Yeah.
certain class, let's say it's a sequential class that's full, what should they do?
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good question. So, most of our sequential classes are gonna kind of be like in the sciences, and there are gonna be a ton of sections. So like we got some questions about Chem 11. So like you take Chem 11 in the fall and then Chem 12 in the winter is the main sequence. Um, I managed Chem 11 pre-enrollment, and we didn't have anyone who couldn't get a spot in the class. We accommodated all of those asks. Um, so for the most part, if you need a class, you will get it. That being said, there are like classes you don't necessarily need to take a specific quarter. So like there could be a lot of lower div major classes that are offered like winter, spring. If the class is full for the winter and they're offering it again in the spring, the department might not accommodate that request just because it's being offered again. But you can always reach out to the department or professor. But like if there's a specific class where there are more options, I usually encourage students to look at those first. I've been doing advising probably 4 or 5 years now, between being a student and in a professional capacity. I've never worked with a student I wasn't able to get into 4 classes, especially their first year. So if you have a student who's struggling to get into classes, please have them meet with me. I enjoy helping students figure that out. So I'd be happy to help your students.
Sorry, just looking through all of my lists of questions. Do you have a recommendation for how frequently a student should stay in touch with their advisor, reach out to their advisor? Is it I know you talked about the mandatory advising period that happens once a year, but is there like a cadence at which they could be like, oh, I don't feel like I know what I want to do next quarter or what I want to do in the future? Like, is there a recommendation on how often they could reach out to their advisor?
Oh, Calvin, do you want to answer?
I can give some thoughts on this. I'll say it kind of varies student to student and some of the support they've gotten. Like I have students who are in their first quarter who have met with me, and we've planned out their whole 4 years, and they may feel confident about registration because of that. So they might want to check in with their advisor in the spring. Um, there are also students who are feeling extremely lost right now. And those students probably want to reach out to, there's a ton of resources and, you know, finding help with at least one of those. So it really depends on your students' needs. That could be, a quarterly thing. I met with a couple of students multiple times this quarter. Or it could be more of a yearly thing. It all just kind of depends on like how proactive your student is and like if they have any questions or if they're feeling set.
My recommendation is to at least, I mean, they have to meet in spring. I would say either fall or winter after that, just to make sure they do another check-in. Because sometimes it's like, okay, well, I'll just wait and meet with my advisor at the end of the year, but really I want them to meet with someone fall or winter so we don't have to be like, well, that's a whole year that we could have advised or caught things. So I just want to make sure. But that's just advising. If it's more like career questions and anything that can be at any time that the student wants to, or they can go to the Career Center too. It's really just up to them on how they want to do that. But for me, I would like it to be at least twice a year, so spring and then fall or winter.
No, that's awesome. Those are great pieces of advice. Calvin, I love that you mentioned, so you've met with the same student a couple times already. So it's like you're open to be there as much as they want to meet with you, right? So again, for parents, if your student is struggling or even has any kind of hesitation, just remind them that they do have these advising support systems in place. Denise and Calvin are great. So always check in with them first. But as Denise alluded to earlier, if your student is minoring in other schools as well, Drummond might be a better option. But the student engagement team in the College of Arts and Sciences is there for your student. With 1 minute left, I do just want to ask Denise and Calvin for one piece of advice for parents to support their student moving forward. We know that registration is going to be stressful. I know that the student will reach out to their parents saying, I couldn't get a class that I wanted because I don't want an 8 a.m. class. So what advice would you leave our folks with today?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is there are a ton of resources on campus, and there are a lot of people who want to help students. I know we've heard some negative experiences, and I'm sorry to hear about those, but like I have plenty of open advising appointments this week, and I would love to see any of your students there. So CAS advising is always a great place to start. So if your student is struggling, please have them reach out.
My piece of advice is to stay calm. And if you really are like, I don't know what to do, email us. I know we say it, advocate, out advocate, but you know your student best. So if you need to reach out to Stephen's office or reach out to us to help navigate that, we're happy to be a partner with you in that. And just be like, hey, like, do you want us to reach out to the student? Do you want, here are the things that we would recommend for the student to do. Like, please don't feel bad. Like, please reach out. As a parent, that's what I would want. So I think that that's kind of where I want to make sure that we just know that you guys probably hear things first before we do. So please let us know.
All right, with that, just thank you everybody for joining us on our webinar. We don't want to take any more of your time. We'll give Calvin an opportunity to answer one last question that's in the Q&A, but other than that, feel free to jump off. Denise and Calvin are great. Thank you for being here today. Thanks, everyone.